Ever wish you could go back to school? After all, as an adult, it's a luxury to spend an entire day learning. Each year, life tends to get a little bit busier, and that's normal. But for young people, these fleeting years are critical because it's a time devoted to gaining knowledge and practical life skills. But while traditional subjects like math, science, and history are generally what come to mind when thinking about school, many education experts argue that personal finance should play a bigger role in curriculums. One person leading this charge is Tim Ranzetta, co-founder of Next Gen Personal Finance, a nonprofit providing free, easy-to-understand personal finance curriculums to middle school and high school teachers. Ranzetta created Next Gen because of an experience he had while teaching high schoolers financial literacy.
In most high schools in America, students have very little understanding of personal finance. It's not something that's been prioritized in American education systems. And so that was the other real impetus for me, was seeing both the lack of knowledge students had, but their thirst for it, and a real, asking questions, why hasn't this been taught to us before? And then I think the most compelling reason that I got hooked was hearing from parents. Students were I have teens in my household, and knowing how difficult it is to have conversations with them. Well, the students were taking these lessons home and teaching their parents.
In many households, adults never had a formal opportunity to learn the basics of money management, like how to invest or build their savings. But when their kids are taught these lessons in school, Ranzetta says that the whole family benefits. Sadly, a large majority of young Americans still don't have this privilege. Though there has been progress. As of this year, 18 states have passed legislation that guarantees that some form of personal finance education is taught in school before students graduate.
These 18 states represent over 40% of the high school population. Now, 8 of those states have already implemented, and 10 of them are in the process of implementing. So we've literally gone from 8 to 18 states in just the last 2 years. So I think there's an awareness, and I think part of it's probably driven by the pandemic, and I think part of it's driven by just the level of economic uncertainty that's being felt in a lot of households, and realizing that, if we don't change anything, if we don't introduce a course like this or continue to withhold it, we're probably not going to move the dial much.
But how can parents ensure that the curriculum hits all of the important points? So often, courses touch on the need to save versus spend, but don't go into the specifics on how exactly to save for retirement, avoid high-interest debt, file taxes, and so on. With millions of young people entering college each year, it's also important to cover the different types of loans, interest rates, and the very real burden of finishing school in tens of thousands of debt. In terms of course length, there are also differences based on where you're located. While some states, like Florida, require that students take an entire semester-long standalone personal finance course, other states only allocate 3 or 4 weeks. Ranzetta says that in an ideal world, students would spend an entire year learning about this topic. But for now, the gold standard in high school is a dedicated semester-long course that covers all of the basics and allows for practice.
One semester course really enables you to cover topics such as behavioral economics. Again, we think psychology is incredibly important. Also talking about credit, the types of credit that are available, as well as how to manage it effectively. Investing, if we're talking about building long-term wealth, really teaching things like index mutual funds. We also talk about budgeting, the ability to differentiate between needs and wants, and have students go through an exercise where they think about what is life going to look like after high school or after college as they put together a complete budget.
These basic skills are critical before students leave a very structured home environment and shift to a more independent life post-high school. Over the last 4 years, there have been studies from Montana State University and the University of Wisconsin-Madison showing the real-world benefits of this education. Researchers noticed that among students who took these classes, there were fewer defaults, higher credit scores, and lower rates of taking out high-interest loans. While there's still more research to be done, most Americans can agree that money management is extremely important and that these lessons are as relevant as it gets. Ranzetta points to the tens of thousands of teachers across the U.S. who've taken the lead in integrating these modules into their classrooms.
We've grown from 0 to 70, I think it's almost 79,000 teachers now who've come to our website and signed up for a teacher account that we've gone ahead and verified. And so we've grown kind of one teacher at a time. And I think what we find is where there's a will, there's a way. And so we find teachers who teach one semester or maybe a half a semester personal finance course, but we also hear from math teachers, from English teachers, from PE teachers, who are all trying to bring some level of relevance and engagement to their classroom. And so I think that's the thing that makes me so hopeful is that it is spread. We have English teachers, for example, who look at a product we call the fine print, where students have to read a credit card agreement, a rental agreement, read a credit report, and that requires some really close reading. And so we find creative English teachers who find ways to incorporate it. So yeah, I'm just so impressed and inspired by it's really the commitment of educators to say, I'm going to find a way to bring this in. If I can't get a one semester course approved, because that requires, board approval, I'm going to find other ways to ensure that they're getting this life-changing information.
So if your child's local school or state doesn't offer a separate personal finance course, what can you do to push for change? Ranzetta says try to become more involved with the school district. Talk to teachers and administrators about the benefits. But also plan to attend and speak up at school board meetings. If you can, consider running for a board position to have more say on decisions involving the school curriculum.
We've got a page dedicated. It's called Got Finance. We have information on over 10,000 high schools. So I guess that's the other thing that parents and students could do is learn to see what their school is currently doing around personal finance and know that they have a voice. They have a voice, whether it's students or parents, to be able to stand up at a board meeting and say, we ought to be doing more. And by the way, there are free resources out there, both from a curriculum perspective, as well as to train teachers. And the cool thing about training teachers is that they are incredibly motivated to learn this material too. So I can't tell you how many teachers will tell me, not only have you helped me be a better teacher, but you've also helped me in my own financial life.
To find out more about this topic, financial literacy resources, and our guest, Tim Ranzetta, head to viewpointsradio.org. This segment originally aired in May of 2023 and was written and produced by our executive producer, Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson. This segment is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Earn unlimited 2x miles on everything you buy. Plus, get access to over 1,300 airport lounges and a $300 annual credit for bookings through Capital One Travel. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.